episode of Wordsmith Speakers Alliance and a mindset moment. Yeah, I got stuck on my own daggone title. Ain't that crazy? But look, that's real. That's what happens in life sometimes. Sometimes you draw a blank and sometimes you get stuck and you can't unstick yourself. But the key always is, excuse me, even though this is not the topic, the key in all things is to keep going. But today I want to talk to you about what really matters. And that's essential for all of us, whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not. You need to know what really matters in your life, what really matters in your day to day interactions, what really matters as you're doing important things. And sometimes, even on the fun side, it doesn't always have to be serious or have a serious outcome, but you still should know the rules of engagement, and you should still know what really matters there too. I talk about the simple fact that awareness is key. Now, awareness simply means knowing about your surroundings, knowing about what's happening in your environment, or knowing about what's happening with the people that you're interacting with. That's why awareness is key. I think about Steve Harvey, right? Now, Steve Harvey's had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and challenges, embarrassments, debacles, whatever you want to call them. And I remember hearing Tony Rock talk about Steve Harvey and, what made him the representative for all black people, and what made him the representative of knowing all things regarding to marriage, because he's failed at marriage several times. And somewhat, I sort of agreed with Tony Rock until I started thinking about it. And I said to myself, you know what? You may not be an expert at a thing because you failed, but what better way to become an expert since you have failed? In other words, whatever's gone wrong the first time, the second time, the third time, if you didn't learn from those mistakes, those failures, if you did not learn from that, shame on you, because sort of that's what life is about, evolving, learning, growing, building, taking it and going to that next level. John Maxwell, one of the first books of his that I liked was Failing Forward. He always talks about, even when you fail, if you fall flat on your face, when you get up, you're 5 to 6 feet ahead of where you were before you fell down. And even though that's a kind of a funny example, but it's true. Failing forward. So you fail forward, you fall forward, you get up, you're a little closer to hopefully where you expect to go and where you expect to be in life. But both of those people, Steve Harvey and John Maxwell, they're sort of light years away in how they've come to the general public, but they both have a point about awareness, and they both have a point about knowing what really matters because of the experiences that we have. If the experiences that you have don't help you to understand who you are and help you to guide or course correct, where you want to go in life, all I can say is shame on you. And that's not to pick on anyone, but it's just to state the fact that we have to realize that as adults, young adults, seasoned adults, and vets, it's on you. This is your one shot to get it, to do it, to make it happen. And if you're going to do it, just do the daggone thing. Yeah, sometimes it does matter what other people think, but the bottom line is you've got to do what you've got to do, win, lose, or draw. So, I think what happens for many of us is that we are thrown off by the perceptions and the misconceptions of life. Sometimes they're perceptions that are rolling around our own mind. Sometimes they're perceptions that we've overheard other people express, or misconceptions we've heard other people express. And it factors in, and then we have been impacted by those thoughts, by those words, by those expressions and experiences. And when it's all said and done, we reform or reshape our own views based on things that we've been exposed to. Now, again, what really matters, right? It does matter that you have these different stimuli around you, but at your core, if you really believe in a thing, you stand for a thing, it matters to you deeply about this cause, this issue, whatever it is, then it's great to hear opposing views. But most importantly, you should stand your ground. Stand your ground to your own beliefs. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, those misconceptions and perceptions, they leave us stagnant. They leave us uncertain. They leave us in a space that we're not really sure what we should or should not do. And then a lot of times we don't do anything. We'll find ourselves in that same space. And that's not where you want to be. But because of the things that, again, happened or that you were exposed to, you're second guessing yourself on should you move forward or not. Whether it's posting on social media, speaking to someone you care about, speaking to someone in your workspace, whatever it is. And what really matters is you. And it's what's on the inside. That's the truth. Part of our issue is we have so many things that's going on and things in our lives. I'm talking about, and I wrote a list. I'm going to read them. I'm talking about clothes and shoes and suits and cars and food and different types of beverages, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. We have all this stuff, right? And sometimes we get caught up on the things. We get caught up on the stuff, and we think that that is so important. Well, it's part of who we are, and it's part of what helps us go and come, but it's not really the essential thing. I can use myself for an example. I probably at this point have more suits, more tailored suits, shoes, shirts, all this kind of stuff. Right? I got all this stuff. I got the gadgets, the tech, and I still like tech, and there's nothing wrong with that. But those are just tools or things to use for me to go from where I am to where I want to be, or for me to have the opportunity to engage and interact. And the tools themselves is not the essential thing. Although I have all these tools, I like all these things. The essential thing is here and here, here and here. And to a lot of people, they're probably saying that's corny. But you know what? That's what really matters. Here and here. Truth be told. Now, outside of the issues, there are other things that we find, especially when we focus on the issues. I'm talking about the food, the clothes, the gadgets, the cameras, all these things. When we focus so heavily on those things, what you find is that you're taking yourself or allowing yourself to be absorbed into a void, an abyss of sorts. I'm talking about you're using those things and you're not really using your heart. You're not coming from your heart. You're not necessarily having a heart-mind interaction or heart-mind authentic place that you're coming from. And what I wrote down, the void sometimes become social media. The void sometimes come food, sex, alcohol, gaming, right? Television and cable. Even the opinions of others can sometimes become a void, because I know personally of people that will go to conferences and workshops and they become professional participants and attendees. Now, there's nothing wrong with learning and growing yourself. You should always grow yourself. You should always be willing to evolve and learn about best practices and different nuances. However, there comes a time where you've got to pull the trigger. You've got to pull the cord so your parachute can come out and you can glide or guide yourself to that place that you're supposed to be. I mean, even sleep can become a void, because some people, they don't want to face reality. So they get up, go through the motions, do the basics, and then they get back in bed and they just sleep. Now, that's, unfortunately, the truth for people. I'm not saying that people want to be in a void of any of those things, but that's, some people's reality. And if you're being honest with yourself, look, I should have said it in the beginning. You should get a pen and paper out. And why? Because you may see that in the things you talked about, the clothes and shoes and the games and the cameras and the phones and the widgets and the right. If you can identify with 2 to 3 of those things, I would say this talk, this training is something that you should really take a serious look at. And as far as the voids, write down those too. Are you always on the computer? Are you always on social media? Are you a gamer, an avid gamer, and you're just doing it for the sake of doing it? Are you a constant foodie? Look, again, if you can identify with 2 to 3 of those different scenarios, then it's probably relating to your life and how you live your life. It does not make you a bad person, any of those things. The wonderful thing about us is that we all have the ability to shift, in a moment's notice or because something really struck us, right? I know when I was using drugs, at my bottom, I had the ability to shift because I was in that space. I was in a void. I was doing something that took me nowhere. It had no upside. There was no return on investment of my time, my resources, right? And I did not have any type of quote unquote things, right? All I had was issues. So anyone can change in a moment's notice, if you will, because it's something that's important to them. They realize how they want their life to appear different. Now, all the things that I had personally, those things have changed, and most of the things that I now do have, and I'm not talking about material things or tangible things, I'm talking about the intangibles. They're priceless. The faith, the trust, the belief. You can't put a price tag on those things. And that's what really matters. So, share this post out if you know of someone that can benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please make your comments. I would love to respond to your comments. If you have any questions, same. I would love to respond to your questions. So, a couple of things I was talking about were the issues or the things, the voids. And now I think I want to get to one of the most important points of this talk. The topic is what really matters. So this bullet or this point is what really matters. I want to share with you the things that I feel really matter. Now, you may add things, you may take away things, but at the end of the day, what really matters is your heart, right? You have to have love in your heart, and that's the thing that matters. No, everyone won't receive it. No, everyone won't believe it. Everyone does not want to hear it, but it's huge, and it's a huge part of our lives as human beings. Unfortunately, many of us don't have enough respect for one another that we can get along and show or experience and share true love. That's just how humanity has evolved in our society today, but it's really important, and I just wish we could embrace it more. But what really matters, honestly, one is money. No, don't get me wrong. I know I've heard the phrase all my life, money is the root of all evil. Well, it's the love of money, which is the root of all evil. But I think what really matters is money. That's when you're using it as a resource. You see, what did I write down? Oh, yeah. When you use money as a resource, that means you're probably using it obviously for your survival, right? Day to day, year to year, whatever it may be. But also when you're investing or when you're saving, money is essential. So that's one of the reasons why I say money is something that really matters. That's what really matters. But you have to be careful because money can become a void, meaning that you can get so caught up on having money that you find yourself in that other place. You find yourself in that place that now you're buying things again, right? And you're buying things that you don't necessarily want, you don't necessarily need. You may genuinely like them, but why are you overindulging in things that you already have? Because now you're going to wind up having an abundance of the same thing, and you won't be able to really use it in the manner or in the fashion that you normally could have. Another thing is authenticity. What really matters? Authenticity. That's what I'm talking about. Love. If you can't truly love your neighbor, love a family member, um, have even love for the assignment that's on your life, that's not cool. That's far from good. It's not going to be a beneficial thing for you. And you really need to rethink or reconsider how you look at love. Now, I know the word love is thrown around very loosely in many cases, but I really believe that love is important. And I'm sure the older you get, hopefully, the more mature you get, and the more mature you get, the more you understand what love really is all about. Yes, it is about the love of a friend, the love of your significant other and your children, but it's also the love for can be the love for the craft, which may be considered the passion, right? You have a responsibility to be honest with yourself about the things that you love or the places that you find yourself as it relates to love. And you have to be authentic with yourself about what you're doing with your time. That's really important. So what really matters, number one, is money. What really matters is authenticity as it relates to love, being your authentic you. Now, what about the fact that do you love yourself? Yeah, that's a big one, because many times we say, of course I love myself, but are you exercising? I'm guilty. I'm not as much as I should. I do some calisthenics, but I don't exercise like I should. Are you overindulging with food? Guilty again. I overindulge with food more than I should. Are you, doing anything that doesn't show that you're caring enough for yourself? I'm sure we all have from time to time, but I also do a lot of good things, such as I take vitamins, not just a multivitamin, but different types of vitamins. Okay, I mentioned the calisthenics. Okay, I refrain from certain foods that I know aren't good for my body and don't break down to my digestive system. So although there is bad, there's also good, but there's a certain level of responsibility that one must have. And that's something that I would say is what really matters. The third thing I would say that really matters is accountability. You have to be accountable, so accountable for what? Accountable for yourself, accountable to yourself, accountable to your gifts, accountable when you make mistakes or errors. That's really important. And a lot of us find it difficult to be accountable. So when it relates to, or as it relates to what really matters, I'm going to go over it again. Money really matters when you're using it responsibly. Authenticity really matters if you want to be truthful, honest. My phrase is open, honest, clear, and direct. And then number three, accountability. Are you really accountable for the things you're supposed to do? The things that are meaningful to you, the charge that's on your life, even the small things, making mistakes, whether they're small or moderate size mistakes. To me, the things that really matter are those three things. It's really not difficult. We as human beings make things more difficult, more complicated than we have to. And when you think about it, you may have things you want to add to the list. You may have a difference of opinion about what I'm saying. Share your thoughts, share your questions and comments. I would love to engage with you about what really matters, because to me, it all matters. It's just you have to put it in perspective. And I always say that you got to radiate the brain and change the game is for a reason. That phrase is made, and it stands for a particular reason. And that reason simply is what you think about, usually you will put out into the universe. And if you're not careful about your thoughts and how you let information into your mind, then you're being a little bit careless with your own potential, your own promise, your own purpose, even. So, again, radiate the brain and change the game, and then you will know what really matters. Leave your comments. I'd love to respond to you.